Everything's falling apart. I went to the ER, I broke up with Ray, and now I'm having doubts about how long I'll even live. I know, it sounds bleak, and it kind of is. But I promise, I'll be as honest as I can as I get into the details of what happened and where my mind is now. But before all that, how I ended up in the ER. My chest was feeling a bit sore and weird Thursday night, but after sleeping it off, I felt better the next day. The weekend wasn't too bad either, but on Monday after I started working again, it came back as a weird discomfort and slight tightness in my chest that was constant. I couldn't continue working, so I told my boss I was unwell and went to urgent care. At urgent care, they ran an EKG, a test to check the heart's electrical activity. When the doctor saw the results, he immediately called an ambulance. I was rushed to the emergency department where they did blood tests, more EKGs, and x-rays. After hours of getting ignored and waiting for results, I finally flagged down the doctor. He told me that everything came back fine. The EKG results had variants that were actually normal, and he didn't know why I had discomfort. I asked about the next steps, and he said he'd talk to my urgent care doctor. Oh, fucking great. 5 hours at the ER, and I still didn't know what was wrong. They were going to make me wait even more for the results from a second blood draw, even though the first was fine. So I left, against medical advice, and went home. But it was during all this ER nonsense that my relationship with Ray was put to the test. And as you can tell from the intro, it failed. A month ago, when Ray said he'd do anything to get back together, I asked for therapy. For him to get his own, and for us to get couples therapy. He never got his own, even though I went to 2 sessions for myself when he asked me to get it too. But we did have one subpar couples session together, and the second was scheduled for 8 p.m. the day I went to the ER. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon when I was sent to the hospital, and I was hopeful that I might get out before 8, knowing full well it could go past that. But Ray kept asking me if he could reschedule the 8 p.m. I asked to wait until 7 to decide, and he initially agreed, but he was getting impatient. After a while, he kept asking again and again to reschedule, and finally I just said okay, and he canceled the session. What hurt me most, though, was that he never asked how I was feeling. It felt like he cared more about getting the therapy session off his calendar than my emotional well-being. Sure, he did show some concern about me getting too cold and needing a blanket while I was at the ER, which was nice, but I didn't really feel like my emotional state was being cared for, and that didn't feel good. When we'd get into arguments in the past, he'd always be so focused on his own feelings that nothing else mattered. And on that day, it was exactly the same. Not even being in the ER was enough for him to put aside his own wants for even a few hours. It was unfucking believable. But back to the therapy session. We were using an app where we could see a bunch of therapists and their availability. After he canceled, I found a session for us that would take place in 2 days at 5:15 p.m. A time slot that is quite rare because evening times usually get booked quickly. I messaged Ray about it, but since he didn't respond after a couple of minutes, I called. The audio was fuzzy, so we had to repeat ourselves. And as I asked him about the scheduling, the nurse came in and asked me a question. I was waiting forever for the nurse to give me an update, so I quickly hung up to answer the nurse before she ran away again. After 3 minutes, I called Ray back asking, "So, is 5:15 okay?" He responded, "Oh, did the call drop?" I said, "No, I hung up because the nurse came, and I had to talk to her." He was pissed. He felt disrespected because I didn't give him a heads up like, "Hey, the nurse is here," or "Hold on, I'll call you back." I went straight to asking about the 5:15 instead of apologizing, and he didn't like that. I tried explaining, and I apologized. Eventually, we scheduled the 5:15, but it just didn't feel right that he went off on me like that. I texted him that it would have been nice for him to have more compassion and understanding, especially since I was in a stressful situation at the ER, but he got defensive as usual and things escalated. After hours of texting, he eventually did apologize, but by then, it was already clear to me. Even in the most dire situations like this, his own feelings and wants still took priority. He just couldn't wait until I got home to tell me how he felt disrespected. He didn't care about doubling my stress when I was at the fucking hospital. I was literally in the emergency room for a potential heart problem, and instead of trying to help me feel better, he was willing to do the opposite, all because he was too impatient to wait. I would never do that, and I knew this was not the life I wanted. That night, after I got home, we got on the phone again to try and resolve our disagreements. I appreciated that he initiated the call, even though he would have preferred not to talk about it, but he came in with a combative attitude, and things got nasty. I told him, if we can't resolve this, I don't think things will work out for us. It escalated, and he hung up. I texted to apologize, and we got back on the phone, but he pushed me to give a yes or a no on whether I'm breaking up with him. I paused for a while and said, I think it's a good time to call it quits. He hung up immediately. That night and the next day, I was in pain, feeling like I had hurt him, and I gave in. I texted him an apology. Once he saw it, he apologized too and called me. We both apologized more again over the phone and were crying and sniffling. We assured each other that we loved each other, and it was a very emotional moment. But at the end of it, even though he still wanted to keep trying, I told him I wanted us to stay ended. We said goodbye, and that was the last I've heard from him. I know. We've been so on again, off again, who knows if we'll get back together, right? But I'm so sure from a logical perspective that this isn't the relationship for me. I know that I don't want to co-parent with him. I know that we can't live together peacefully. And I know that our relationship would be unstable and probably unsuccessful if we stayed together. Sure, he's hot, sweet at times, will never cheat on me, and loves me. But I also have to think about the life I want and what I need for a healthy relationship. Today was the 5:15 session, and it was just me and the therapist. It started off with clarity that I had left a relationship that wasn't right for me. But then I started to share about how I still missed him. A lot. And my therapist felt like I had made a hasty decision without giving us a chance to attend the session together, and without giving Ray a chance to learn better communication tools. Ultimately, she acknowledged that it was my decision to make, but she believed that I was having doubts. And you know what? I think she's right. I do have doubts. As much as I'd like to say I'm confident in my decision, I can't help but think about how rare it is to find a guy who I've been so attracted to for 2.5 years, that I'm still attracted to, who finds me attractive, who loves me back, and after all this, who is willing to keep trying. But at the same time, in my brain, I truly am sure it's not going to work out. I really am. I just wish it could have been different for us. I wish we could have communicated peacefully, calmly, and maturely. I wish we could have just been happy together all the time. But reality is nasty, and reality is scary. Speaking of scary, there's still more to my medical scare to fill you in on. Sure, I went to the ER and I broke up with Ray, but that's not where it all ended. In fact, that's where it started. Thoughts of, how long do I even have to live? What will my future look like? I'm still young, and this is already happening to me? Earlier today, I went to a cardiology appointment. And, good news, I don't think I'm dying. It might just be inflammation of the cartilage near my heart. Well, I shouldn't say just. It's pretty uncomfortable, but more tests are underway to confirm what it really is, and if it's just cartilage inflammation, or as the doctor called it, costochondritis, then it would go away after a while. But the chest discomfort has been getting worse, and it's really debilitating. I have shortness of breath, I feel tired most of the time, and today, I started feeling an icy burn sensation in that area. I'm doubting if I can handle children in the future if my health is already so fragile. Can I even travel and explore as much as I want? And should I even keep working? If I'm so frail, maybe this is an indication that my time here won't be for long. Perhaps I should start making the most of my savings and retire early. Take things easy. I don't know. I really don't. These past few days have flipped my life upside down. And if I die, I die. I'll take responsibility for my decisions. And if I survive, I'll have a clean slate to start again. I'm not sure how that will all look, but I won't worry too much. I'm alive now, in the comfort of my home, and that's already more than enough to be thankful for. But what about you? Have you ever had a period in your life where everything collapsed at once? If so, how did you deal with it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.